Ladies and gentlemen, dear prospective students, welcome to Leiden, welcome to Leiden University, and welcome to the Leiden University Faculty of Archaeology. How great it would have been if I could have welcomed you in our wonderful Van Steenis building. If you could see the buildings, the labs, the books, the colleagues, etc., etc. But that's not possible now, given these difficult times and these difficult circumstances we're living in. As you see, we're doing everything we can to connect to you nevertheless. And with our current students, that goes very well, in fact. So we switched to hybrid teaching and online teaching very quickly. And this is also how we have to communicate now. So that's of course a temporary measure, so we hope to be able to see you of course at the faculty in Leiden very soon. Thank you for joining and thank you for your interest in the Faculty of Archaeology in Leiden and our study program. My name is Michael John Versluys and I'm the Professor of Classical and Mediterranean Archaeology. I'm one out of many professors. Because one of the interesting things of our Faculty of Archaeology is that we study multiple time periods and multiple regions, actually all around the world. So of course it's impossible to cover everything, but we are very proud that we can give you more or less a vision and an idea of global archaeology from deep prehistory actually until modern times. So what we will do in these about 30 minutes is give you a small tour, let's say not a visual tour through the faculty, but a tour through our study program and what you can expect. That will take about, I think, 25 or 30 minutes, and after that there is of course time for questions. So I'm very happy that Vera is here. You do not see her now, but you will see her later. She's one of our students who is now at the end of her BA program, and she's therefore very well capable of answering all your questions. You can ask questions via a QR code who is now visible in the presentation. So it's possible to ask your questions now, but I will also take a little break in the presentation later to alert you once again on the fact that you can ask questions. Ask those questions, they come in, we make a selection, and then we have 15 to 20 minutes to answer them. All right, studying archaeology in Leiden. What is that about? That is of course about becoming an archaeologist, and I think most of you wanted to become an archaeologist actually from your very early childhood onwards. At least I myself had the experience wandering in the landscape and then picking up things and then well, wondering what that said about societies in the past. Many of you will also like dinosaurs, one of the few things we actually do not do in Leiden, but we do a lot of Neanderthals and Paleolithic archaeology. Many of you will have seen Indiana Jones. That's nothing to be ashamed of. That is also, of course, part of a romantic idea of what archaeology is about. And a lot of people are also interested in archaeology nowadays because of games and gaming that often play in those fascinating ancient worlds that you can also study. So I think a lot of people are interested in archaeology. And that's, if you think about it for a little longer, perhaps not so surprising. Because archaeology has a lot to offer. And that is exactly what we like to explore with you in our program at Leiden University. So if you become an archaeologist, as you see here on the screen, that is of course about studying human behavior and activity in the past, from skeletons to empires. And this is what, for myself, makes archaeology so eminently interesting, you could say. There is not a subject imaginable that you cannot approach from an archaeological perspective. That's of course study of the past because you have an interest in the past. But what makes archaeology so specially relevant, you could say, and what is an important focus of our training in Leiden, is that questions about the past matter a lot for our current day world, for the present, and are therefore also very important if we want to determine or at least say something about the future. This is something that you could call deep history. And well, if you look into the newspapers or the news more in general or on internet, then you see that there is a strong focus in our present day world on the here and now. So you could say that memory is very short, maybe 1 year or maybe 10 years or maybe one generation. And one of the big gains of archaeology is that archaeology is capable of doing something else. Archaeology is capable of bringing to you a kind of deep past. So a kind of long-term developments that often go from deep prehistory until the present day. And it's very interesting that many of the problems that we wrestle with today, from climate change to epidemics and from migration to globalization, actually have a very deep history. And archaeologists are very well capable of tracing these long-term histories of these processes that we often perceive as being unique for our time. But if you take a deep historical perspective on those problems, you are much better able to contextualize them and therefore also to think about them in a critical way. So we will take you on a lot of expeditions when you come to Leiden, and we have fantastic fieldwork all around the globe. But we will also talk with you about how how knowledge concerning the past can help you to better understand the present and thus determine the future. And this is what we mean with the second point. Look at current societal issues with a prehistoric, historic perspectives. And of course, do remember the Indiana Jones. If you already bought an Indiana Jones hat to come to Leiden, keep it. You can keep it. You will join there's a possibility to join a wide array of archaeological projects in the Netherlands or abroad. I already told you a little bit about my own interest in archaeology. And one of the reasons why, because I also studied at Leiden University myself, so once I was where you are now, thinking about where to study and what to study, and what attracted me about archaeology, and something I'm still very grateful for, you could say, that I took this kind of intellectual training, is that archaeology is inherently very multidisciplinary. So this is something that you see expressed on the slide over here. So archaeology studies human behavior and activity in the past, and by doing so it connects what we call alpha, beta and gamma studies. So with alpha we mean the humanities, because you work with societies of, for instance, the Greeks and Romans and Phoenicians and Egyptians and Persians in the past, and you look at their texts and the literature and their arts and their material culture. But you also study societies, human societies. So archaeology at the very same time has a lot to do, of course, with anthropology and sociology. It's only historical anthropology or historical sociology. And very prominent, especially over the last decade, has become the beta, the hard sciences side of archaeology. Because those hard sciences has given us a lot of techniques through which we now know much more about the past. And those techniques are, and that is really revolutionary, so therefore it's a very good time to start to study archaeology, they are really revolutionizing, you could say, our image of the past. So through DNA analysis, for instance, the prehistory classes of my colleague Professor David Fontijn really have to be rewritten, because we now know through DNA analysis so much more than we did 10 years ago. Well, the fascinating thing about archaeology, for me, amongst other things, is that it forces you to combine these three perspectives. So alpha, beta and gamma, humanities, hard sciences and social sciences. So we will learn you when you come to Leiden how you can integrate these, and we will give you a lot of freedom to explore, let's say, the site or the domain that you are most interested in at the very same time. So archaeology has its own approaches, its own methods and techniques. Excavation is only one of them. You can also go on survey, and then you walk the landscape to pick up all kind of traces of human behavior in the past. But making a documentation of excavations and surveys is of course also part of the archaeological fieldwork. And also there, in recent times, we are helped tremendously by new techniques like the drone that you see over here. And also the work in the museum, of course, is very much part of what archaeology is about. Because the story has not ended the moment you have excavated your pot or your statue or your picture or your painting. It's a story that continues. So communicating knowledge about the past to the public is part and parcel of our program, of what you will do at our faculty. So a lot of things specific to archaeology from an alpha, beta, gamma perspective, and a lot of connections, of course, through this alpha, beta, gamma perspective with the other sciences, with other disciplines. And therefore Leiden is a very good place, because whatever region you could say, and I think also whatever period you're interested in, there are other colleagues at Leiden University working on those regions or periods from their perspective. And this also counts for actually the social sciences and the hard sciences. So where I myself, for instance, of course work a lot together with the colleagues from the humanities faculty, because my people from the ancient world, the Greeks, the Romans, the Phoenicians, the Egyptians, they produce text and images that are studied over there. So of course, together with them, we look in combination what we can do. This counts also for the people from the hard sciences, who work together with our colleagues in the Faculty of Sciences, biology, for instance. And it also counts for people interested in the social sciences. I myself work together a lot with anthropologists, for instance, to understand how societies function. Because 2,000 years ago, as a species, we were not very different to what we are nowadays. Here you see a slide with the aim and mission of our bachelor program. And the first one is very, very important. So I hope, of course I hope you will all come to Leiden, but I hope you will come to Leiden because of your enthusiasm for archaeology. And what we want to do in our bachelor program is really preserve and further develop this curiosity and fascination for the past. In doing so, we will teach you a lot. And we will add a lot of analytical, creative and also communicative skills, as well as social and ethical reflection. Because, I underlined it already several times, archaeology is not only about the past, it is about the present at the very same time. And therefore, if you go to an excavation, wherever that is around the globe, you will see that the archaeology you're working with, be it in form of an excavation or a survey or work in a museum or documentation, that doesn't matter. Or even the study of a specific historical period. That matters a lot to the people in the region you are functioning, you are working. So social and ethical reflection about who you are, what you are, often commenting of course on the past of other peoples and of different cultures, that is something that that gets a lot of attention in the program. And therefore, many international students in Leiden, we have a kind of international classroom, you could say, but this cross-cultural communication will also play a role in your education in Leiden. So we hope you leave our program as a dedicated and socially empathic researcher, and also as a practical yet reflexive professional. Studying archaeology in Leiden, what kind of impression can I give you on the screen? We have a very international focus. So we really have students and teachers and professors from all over the world. You can enter our program with all Dutch high school profiles, but this interest in archaeology is really something very important. But I guess you are not lacking that. We have two specializations, World Archaeology and Heritage and Society. They are overlapping, of course, for 50 or 60%, and later on in my presentation I will come back to where the difference between the two actually is. What is great about Leiden is that we have so many focus areas. So I already told you we have colleagues doing Neanderthal archaeology, we have colleagues working in Africa, in Asia, we have a very strong department of colleagues working in the Americas. So of course it is impossible to cover the whole globe and to have all the periods, but especially through our networks abroad, we can cover a lot. So whatever period or whatever region you're interested in, I think there's always something to find for you here. So many focus areas, 100 first-year students, so there is a large cohort of students. Leiden is a very nice city. I cannot show you now, but you have to believe me. It's very centrally positioned in the Netherlands and it's small scale. So it's really a very nice student city, you could say. And very importantly, something we're very proud of course, the Leiden Faculty of Archaeology is in the top 10 of the world. So you will be studying in one of the top institutes of archaeology worldwide, and I think maybe the best on the continent. Bringing together, might also be important, different research traditions. So everything is in English of course, but it's not only Anglo-Saxon because we're on the continent, the French and German traditions in archaeology and Italian and others, they play a very important role as well. The great thing therefore is, if you decide to come to Leiden, that you will actually from day one onwards, I think, be confronted with our research, with our top research going on. So many people have great projects with PhDs and postdocs, and those projects are integrated in our teaching program from the very first moment onwards. So this is of course a kind of general philosophy of Leiden University, that we are a research intensive university, but at the Faculty of Archaeology that is really visible. And even as a BA student, you are encouraged and also enabled to already participate in research projects by staff members. We have a beautiful new building with state-of-the-art labs and facilities, and I think actually our staff is maybe the most important facility, covering really a broad scope of what world archaeology is about. How does studying in Leiden look like? Well, maybe some of you have questions about that Vera later can answer. This is just a kind of general impression. 40 hours a week, you have about 10 hours of lectures, and then there are 30 hours of seminars, assignments, practicals. The first year is offered in English and also in Dutch, and you can make assignments in both languages. There is, and that is very important, a mentorate and also a very good study association. And this means that we will rather closely monitor you. So in the past it was problematical for many students to make a shift from high school to the university system. And actually our numbers of success in the first year were not always that high. So therefore we now designed a program in which we really take you by the hand, and in which we help you more making this transition from high school towards becoming a real student. With that, there is something important in Leiden, and that's called the Binding Study Advice, the BSA. This means that we request that you get 75% of your classes, that you pass those classes in the first year. That's not difficult if you are a committed and serious student who is on the right place. So we designed the program in a way that it must be doable for you to pass this BSA. It also means that of course we expect something from you. You have to be committed, you have to work hard when you come to Leiden. But we help you with that. There is the mentor and the mentorate, and there is a study advisor who can help you through personal supervision of students. This is a little bit how our program looks in a bird's eye view. So in the BA1, we provide you with an overview, knowledge, academic professional skills, so general things you have to learn. And then you have to choose between Old World Archaeology or Heritage and Society. I will come back to that in a moment. In the BA2 you have general courses, the internship, and gradually then you are focusing. So you are deepening your knowledge, you could say, and comprehension, both theoretically and practically. And in the BA3, there you have a minor, and there is a study abroad program with general, well, there's a study abroad program, and you will have general courses with some of the other students, and there is your thesis. If you have 1 second, there is something on the screen that I have to press a button, or otherwise the television will be switched off. So this was just to make, yes, thank you very much. So now you see that it's really live and not taped. This is why we did this. Thank you. The difference between the two specializations I was talking about. So in World Archaeology we reconstruct where we come from, we enrich, expand our knowledge about the past, and we also want to train you in how you can advise present-day society how to deal with its heritage. Once again, very important, it's possible to specialize in different regions all across the world and in different methods and techniques. This is really a great strength of our Faculty of Archaeology. Heritage and Society has, of course, a similar focus, but is more explicit concerning what we call this deep history. So here you explore the historical backgrounds and deep history of current issues. Migration, globalization, epidemics, but also the way people handled crisis, food waste, etc., etc. All those issues have a deep historical past that matter for our present. And that is what Heritage and Society is focusing on, as well as, of course, trying to make a bridge, to bridge that knowledge towards the general public, because the past is everywhere. Your skills then after you finish, and I put as the first bullet what is for me and always remains the most important one, critical thinking. We are going to train you to think critically and from a variety of perspectives. And that is this global perspective that we have, and at the same time this alpha, beta, gamma profile, you could say. But of course you will get skills in academic writing, research skills, time management, and where the BAs in World Archaeology are more specifically trained and in archaeological field techniques in the widest sense of the word, the Heritage and Society students have a more, you could say, maybe theoretical profile, and a profile geared towards heritage studies and ethical and also intercultural discussion. And when I say theoretical, I don't mean it's not applied, because the application there is very important in society and also, for instance, through museums and museum work. So some examples from first year courses. So we have a course I'm teaching myself in, an overview of world archaeology, which is wonderful, from deep prehistory until the period after the Middle Ages, all taught by professors who are specialists in those domains. But this is another great course of the first year, material studies, in which you get to know a lot of materials. And very important, past and future. So from the first moment onward, the question, why does archaeology matter and how do you deal with that, plays a very important role. Also very important, the internships. So we can take you all around the world on great fieldwork projects in the Netherlands and abroad. And those fieldwork projects are really archaeological projects for the world's archaeologists, and Heritage and Society is of course also an internship geared more towards government agencies, city councils or museums. Your life after the bachelor's program. Well, you can go to all the other Leiden MAs in archaeology, and as you see over here, if you choose for Heritage and Society, then you even also have the possibility to continue with MAs in the Faculty of Social Sciences. Okay, slowly going towards the finalization of my presentation. I will tell you a little bit more about where people who study archaeology end up, but this is maybe the moment that you take a while to formulate your questions. So your questions then come in and we will select them so that in 5 minutes when this presentation is over, we have a set of questions that we will try to answer in the 15 or 20 minutes left afterwards. So if you want to ask a question, please ask this through the QR code through the site now. Okay, to end my presentation then, where do our alumni, so the people who graduated from our archaeology program, where do they end up? Well, the interesting thing here, you see, we did research after that. Here you see that after the MA, so people who followed up with an MA, 59% of the MA alumni find work within archaeology, within commercial archaeology, which is of course very important. And we even have a commercial archaeology company working closely together, housed in the faculty, Archeology, and with whom we work very closely together. So you have many students who go from their thesis, for instance, via working experience with this company directly towards commercial archaeology. But there's also the museum sector, government, and research and education, as you see. From the 40% of the people, 41% who do not find work within archaeology, they find very interesting job elsewhere. And I think that is because of that critical thinking from a variety of disciplinary perspectives, you could say, that is central to our training. So even people who do not do something with archaeology at all in their later career are often very happy that they studied with us because of that. There are many other compelling reasons to come to Leiden. I just make this slide to give you an impression. There is a very lively study association. We have very often faculty lectures in which the whole community comes together, and that's always finished by something called drinks, or borrel in Dutch, words you will learn to know when you come to Leiden. There are jobs for students who want to excel and who slowly want to, let's say, build up their research career. So already in the BA, you really can start playing, let's say, an important role. Also working on your own profile, what you want to do. What is it what you are interested in? And there are of course many faculty committees and council that you can join. I started by saying that it's very unfortunate that I cannot welcome you in our building. We have a wonderful building with state-of-the-art labs, as you can see, but I think one of our most important facilities is also our staff with those very wide and broad expertises in time and all around the globe. I think this was it for now, what I wanted to say. I hope this has given you something of an overview of how we see archaeology at the Leiden Faculty of Archaeology and what your possibilities there would be. I'm sure there are questions, and therefore I will now ask Vera to join me over here. She is the student, So maybe you thought that I only had positive things to say about the faculty, but from Vera you will undoubtedly hear the truth. So Vera will stand next to me, then we have your questions on the screen in front of us, and then we will try to answer them. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining this presentation in the first place. Thank you, Michael John Versluys, for giving the presentation. We've collected some questions, so I think it's time to go through them now, one by one.
Yes.
The first one I answered, is there a cap on the number of students that are admitted? As long as you meet the requirements, you will be admitted to the program, so no, there's no cap. And then there was a second question about the masters you qualify for with this bachelor. That is kind of far away. I can imagine some people are looking into that now, some people might not. But in terms of archaeology, if you do the Bachelor Archaeology, you will be admitted to the Bachelor in Archaeology Masters. And I think there was a slide on that already.
Yes.
So I think this question has been answered as well. If you have any more specific questions about this, feel free to contact the study advisor or contact the students at the information stand. They might be able to give you some more specific information.
Yeah. So it's all masters in archaeology, and if you have a bachelor in heritage and society, then there are all specific programs in the Faculty of Social Sciences that you can follow. Yeah.
And then there's another one about archaeological sciences. This is a good question because it refers to courses as well in your bachelor's. It is a master program, but it's also a course in your bachelor program. So all these sciences that are, that the master mentions, you will meet them in the bachelor's as well. So you will encounter osteology, you will encounter zoology, botany, material studies, digital archaeology as well. All these sciences you will encounter in your bachelor's first. And if you find them that interesting, you can choose to pursue a master's in them as well. Which I think is a really, really cool aspect about the study of archaeology, about your bachelor's, that you really do already meet all of these subfields of archaeology.
Yeah. And this aligns with what I try to express with this alpha, beta, gamma profile. So it's really, we find it really necessary that you understand archaeology in what is called a holistic way. So as Vera told, you really will be confronted with all these different aspects, so also with the archaeological sciences, and also quite intensive. But of course through courses, and especially through the selection of your thesis topic, you can really, let's say, develop in one direction or in another direction. So if you're very much interested in the sciences in your bachelor, you will do courses, of course, which you can choose over there, and also for your thesis you will probably move there, which means that you're already gearing your profile towards that. But at the same time, there are of course general courses that you will have to do, because we want to develop you as a kind of all-round archaeologist, you could say.
Yeah, there's plenty of more. It's not just the sciences, so you've got a lot of choices when it comes to, kind of specializing later on. Let me see the next question. Could you describe some of the projects that Leiden is involved in? I really like this question. Maybe it's good if I can answer something about my own fieldwork I did, maybe?
Yes.
In my second year?
Yes.
Because what I did in my second year was I went on a project to Jordan in the Black Desert with one of our professors, Professor Peter Akkermans. So we stayed in the desert for 5 weeks. The whole dig was 10 weeks. I ended up going for 5 weeks, but what we did was we stayed in the desert for, the whole time really, and we studied the landscape of the desert. It hasn't really been studied before, and when you go through the landscape, it's just sand, what you expect from a desert, I guess, but then there's these massive black dots on top, and that is what we studied. They proved to be burial cairns, and sometimes we saw some enclosures as well. So it was really all about mapping the desert landscape, which I thought was a really, really interesting project.
Great. Yeah, this is one of the examples of our projects. There are of course many more. We have a very strong field school in the Caribbean, so with Professor Corine Hofman. So then you go to the Caribbean, not to lie in the sun of course, but to do archaeological fieldwork. And there's many more. We have a field school in the Molise in Italy. We're starting up now in Spain and Portugal. And so it's actually all around the world that we have these kinds of projects that we want our BAs to profit from. And this also counts, I shouldn't forget this, of course, for the Netherlands itself, where there's a lot of interesting research going on.
As a first-year World Archaeology student, you will encounter fieldwork in the Netherlands as well.
Yes, of course.
That's where everyone will start.
And if you want to have more information about projects, then go to the website, because there you have the 3 departments, so Sciences and Heritage and World Archaeology. And if you click through those departments, you will immediately see, if you go to the professors or the associate professors, you will see what kind of projects they have.
Yeah, it's really interesting to have a scroll through what the university is doing.
Yeah, it's a great way to prepare, indeed. Yeah.
Let's see if we got another question. Do you choose your specialization in the first year of your BA, or is this chosen later? Let's do this as a final question, because I think we're running out of time. So what you do in the first year is you choose Heritage or World Archaeology.
Yeah.
And then through seminars and through your minor and through your thesis, you'll develop and specialize more later on during the BA. Am I saying this right?
Yeah, correct.
And it's really diverse. It can go from the sciences, as I said, but me, for example, I went to Jerusalem, and there I really found out that I would like to combine archaeology and religion. So it's also really about exploring your interests, really. You don't have to go in with like a set idea of I want to do this. It's also a really great opportunity to explore and see all different things and then later on decide. So I think that's really, the broadness of Leiden is really, use it to your advantage, I would say.
Yeah, and this is how it's also, as a kind of final remark, then, because we have to stop already, I'm sorry about that. You start very broad, and then slowly already in this BA, we allow you to build up more or less your own profile. So it's of course very interesting, that you ended up studying religion and archaeology, and then doing a minor at a university abroad. That is exactly what the program wants to do. So then you have this broad approach, so you know what archaeology holistically in all its broadness and in all its perspectives is about. But then in year 2 you focus, and in year 3 through your thesis you're really able to make it into your own project and to develop for yourself your own profile. And given the broadness of the expertise in Leiden, and I really think also this integration of teaching and research, there's a lot to choose from, and that is that's something very interesting, I think.
Very interesting, yeah. So
all right, we have to leave it here. Unfortunately, I cannot offer you any cookies or goodies, which I would like to do. If you have further questions?
Yes, there are students available for you. We have chats and we have a live Q&A desk. So if you have any more questions or would just like to chat with some other students, you can do that at the information stand of the platform you're on right now. There will be students you can chat to and ask any of your questions to. And if you want to do this at a later time, visit the website, and then you'll find the email address of me, the student ambassador, or the study advisor, or you can chat with me there as well. So there's plenty of opportunities to get in touch and ask your questions. So good luck with your choices and study.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.